Why study the legacies and lives of a martyr? Are there any benefits to be derived from that observation? Does it remind us of the cost to be a disciple of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What the price is, or what the price was in the previous ages, and what it continues to be in today's world for many. According to many thinkers and psychologists, pondering upon the lives of those who sacrificed themselves for the well-being of humanity serves to strengthen us. After all, this is why they were written down in the first place. The knowledge of persecutions past and present gives us another reason to be thankful towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It makes us acknowledge His goodness towards us. Sayed Hussein Al-Qazwini is joining us once again in tonight's episode to shed some light upon the very important lessons which can be derived from the life of Fatima Al-Zahra as the martyr. Respected viewers, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the fifth and final episode of Zahra the Great with me, your host Ahmed Ali. Assalamu alaikum Sayyidina.
Alaikum assalam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Now, yesterday we touched upon a little bit of what happened in Fadak, or something regarding the land of Fadak, and you mentioned some very important information regarding this topic. But before we dive into lessons, can you briefly tell us about what happened in Fadak? What is Fadak?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
To you and my dear viewers.
Yes.
Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, during his lifetime, when he was married to Khadija, Khadija had a dowry, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi was poor. He wasn't able to provide her with her dowry until she passed away. This remained alone. Not alone. This remained a debt on the shoulders of Rasulullah. When someone owes you and they die, that debt moves from them to their children,
yes,
to their heirs. Khadija alayhi salam had Fatima Al-Zahra. She had no other child alive at the time, other than Fatima Al-Zahra. Allah revealed the following verse: وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ. آتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ. And give to your kin, your family members, their rights. Scholars say that the verse is alluding to the dowry of Sayyidah Khadija alayhi salam, that he never gave. So her heir, Fatima Al-Zahra, is alive. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had the land of Fadak. It belonged to him personally. Because this is a topic, fiqhi topic, regarding anfal, land that you receive.
Spoils?
It's kind of like spoils, but pertaining to land. Land. If the Muslim army fights and there's conquest, that land is for the Muslim nation, and it's divided among all Muslims. But if a group of people surrender peacefully to Muslims, surrender peacefully meaning that we don't want to fight you, we don't want to have fights, that land will belong to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is called al-anfal. Fadak belonged to Rasulullah because there was no fighting. Rasulullah received it peacefully from its inhabitants,
Its owners, yeah.
its owners. While if a land the Muslim army would fight for, then it's divided among all Muslims. So Fadak belonged to Rasulullah only. Rasulullah said that, I haven't given Khadija her dowry, let me give it to Fatima Al-Zahra. He gave the land of Fadak to Fatima Al-Zahra as a nahla, as a gift. It belonged to her in his lifetime. In his lifetime, it belonged to Fatima Al-Zahra. Rasulullah passed away. Fadak belonged to Fatima Al-Zahra.
So there's no significance in the land? Or does the land signify something?
No, no. At that point, it didn't signify anything. That it belonged to Rasulullah. It belonged to Rasulullah. Rasulullah gave it to Fatima Al-Zahra. The land was big. It had workers. It generated money. As soon as Rasulullah passed away, after 10 days, Abu Bakr took the land away. Fatima Al-Zahra came to him. She said, why did you take this land away? This belongs to me. He said, who says it belongs to you? It doesn't belong to you. She said, Rasulullah, when he was alive, he gave it to me. He said, I don't recall him giving it to you. It belonged to Rasulullah, and he died. And when a prophet dies, whatever he leaves, it's sadaqah. It's for all Muslims. It's not for you. She said, I have witnesses to testify that Rasulullah gave me this land in his lifetime. He said, who are your witnesses? She said, Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, Ali ibn Abi Talib is your husband.
Wow.
He's going to have a biased opinion. She said, Ayman. Ayman is his sister, Imam Ali's sister, the daughter of Abu Talib.
Yeah.
He said, she's a female, and one female witness is not enough. She said, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein. He said, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein are children. The testimony of children is not accepted. So he rejected her witnesses, Imam Ali, Ayman, Al-Hasan wal-Hussein. She said, "طيب, you want to reject Imam Ali? You think Imam Ali would lie? Just because he's my husband doesn't mean he's going to have a bias. You know Ali ibn Abi Talib more than anyone else.
We've seen his reaction with his brother.
الحق مع علي وعلي مع الحق والحق مع علي.
Yes.
Something that Rasulullah said. You think that that Imam Ali would lie and make up, facts? خلاص. She said, okay. You do not accept that Rasulullah gave me this land while he was alive. خلاص. It remained his. Now that he died, I'm his only heir. Consider it irth. Consider it inheritance. If you don't want to consider it nahla as a gift, consider it inheritance. She used another strategy.
Yeah.
She said, inheritance? But I heard he was the only one. No one else. No one else other than Abu Bakr had supposedly heard this
Subhanallah.
hadith. He's the only one. What is it? I heard Rasulullah state that نحن معاشر الأنبياء لا نورث ما تركناه صدقة. That we prophets, we do not leave inheritance for our children, our progeny. Whatever we leave behind, it's considered charity. It's considered sadaqah. Give it to the poor Muslims. She said, but the Quran states, وَوَرِثَ سُلَيْمَانُ دَاوُود. Sulaiman inherited Dawood. The Quran tells us about Zakaria. فَهَبْ لِي مِن لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ.
Yes.
Zakaria wanted an heir. He said no. And unfortunately, Sunni scholars, they say that these verses, they're not talking about monetary inheritance. They're talking about knowledge.
Wow.
They're talking about prophecy and prophethood. He wanted an heir so that he becomes a prophet after him. Ajib. Yarithuni. He's my heir. Inheritance is of money, land. Prophecy is not inheritance.
It's not.
We don't have, because the father is a prophet, so his son has to be. It's not a monarchy. Prophecy is about competence.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with lineage.
We
and family members.
for Zakaria. Sorry, not for Zakaria. We have for Yaqub. Was it the father of Joseph?
Right.
Jacob. He had older brothers. If it was a monarchy, then they would have went to the other brothers, not to Yusuf.
Brothers, but it didn't go to his.
I mean, as you mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses who his prophets are. But if the land didn't signify anything, why keep it away from Fatima Al-Zahra? I mean, just give it to her. Why keep it away?
There's a
They
couple
had
of
to.
reasons. There's a couple of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One is that fadak was a large land in Medina, and it had workers, it had gardeners, farmers. Land means money.
Mm-hmm.
It generated money. Now, the Khilafah was taken from Ali ibn Abi Talib and Fatima Al-Zahra. It was taken from this house. But if they were to have fadak, that means they have money. If you have money, that means you have power. That means you could generate an army. That means you could pay an army. The government was thinking ahead. The authorities were thinking ahead. They say if we leave fadak in the hands of Fatima Al-Zahra and Ali ibn Abi Talib, maybe in a year's time, in a couple of months, they'll generate an army. They'll pay soldiers and workers, and they'll overthrow the government. This is one. This is one possible reason. Two is that they said today Fatima Al-Zahra will ask about fadak. Tomorrow she will come and ask about the Khilafah. If we give her fadak, if we leave her with fadak, tomorrow she's going to come and ask about the Khilafah. So let's cut
it from now.
Yeah, cut it from the roots. No fadak, no Khilafah. Because when you give someone something, he'll ask for more. He'll expect more. But if you take that which is less important, he's not going to ask for. If you deny someone $100, he's not going to ask for $1,000, because you've denied him the $100. But if you give the person the $100, he's going to come and ask you the next day for the $1,000. He said, let's take away fadak so that they won't even think of the Khilafah. They won't even think of the Khilafah.
I mean, are there any evidence for this? Do we have sources that mention, fadak was Fatima Al-Zahra's?
Yes, yeah. Regarding the verse وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ, several Sunni tafasir.
But the rest of the verse, I mean, we're just choosing. The rest of the verse says وَآتِ ذَا الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ وَالْمِسْكِينَ وَابْنَ السَّبِيلِ.
Right. That's fine. But ذَا الْقُرْبَى, who's ذَا الْقُرْبَى? ذَا الْقُرْبَى is
your kin, your family.
Your kin. Mufassirin say it was Fatima Al-Zahra alayhi salam. Was Fatima Al-Zahra alayhi salam. It was a political move. Plus, in addition, that they wanted, the power to themselves. They wanted this land and power and money to themselves. They thought that why keep it in the hands of Ali and Fatima Al-Zahra, and they could use it against us. Let us take advantage of it. And the interesting thing about fadak, proof that it did belong to Fatima Al-Zahra, is that fadak kept on coming into the hands of Bani Hashim and going out, coming back, going out. And a just ruler would of course, none of them were just, but it was relative. Some were more just than the others. For example, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz from Bani Umayyah, supposedly he was the least evil. He was the least evil. He stopped the cursing of Imam Ali, which had been a tradition for 70 years, and he returned fadak.
You have Al-Ma'mun.
Al-Ma'mun, did he return fadak?
During the time of Imam Rida alayhi salam.
Right, possibly.
He lessened the curse of Ayn Talib and gave back fadak.
Right. It kept on going back and forth. Sayyid Muhammad Baqir al-Sadr, in his Fadak bit-Tarikh, he gives all the details of when did it go back, when did they take it back, and so on and so forth. It's very interesting that it didn't remain in the hands of the government, but they did give it back. Giving it back is acknowledgement that this belongs to you. Another tyrant comes, he takes it back, and so on and so forth.
I mean, this land had to, there has to be a secret in that land. I mean, rulers just don't take, they conquer countries, they conquer cities, yet they keep on coming back to that land.
There was nothing special about it. It's not that it had treasure. No, it was a vast land.
So it just
generated money. Yeah, it had workers, it had trees, it had farms. It generated money. And like we said, money equals power.
Yes.
If you have money, that means you have power.
Especially in our world
that
today.
you could get to power,
Yes.
powerful positions,
Mhm.
as we've seen in some parts of the world now,
Yes.
where wealthy men reached power
Yeah.
through their money.
Yes. We don't want to mention names, but anyhow, something that is correlated to fadak and to the death or murder of Fatima Al-Zahra. Some people bring evidence that Fatima Al-Zahra died a normal death. She was sick. She was sad, out of grief. She cried so much that she died because of, missing her father. And others bring evidence that Fatima Al-Zahra was actually murdered. She's a martyr. And we named it today, the topic, Fatima the martyr. Now, in jurisprudence, we have, if two things collide, they fall. We have evidence that says she died a normal death, and we have that she was murdered. Which one do you go by?
We don't have evidence.
And what is the evidence?
We don't have evidence that she died a normal death.
A lot of Sunni sources mention.
Huh.
Yet a lot of Sunni sources do mention that she was murdered.
Right. This is their claim. Those who deny the fact that Fatima Al-Zahra was martyred or was a martyr, they say the following: that her house was not attacked.
Mm-hmm.
They deny the whole incident of the attack on the house. And this is the reasoning. They say, first of all, it's a weak narration. The Senate is weak.
Mm-hmm.
Two, where was Imam Ali?
See, that's a lot of question that deviates.
Where was Imam
some.
Ali? If Imam Ali alayhi salam was in the house, how did he,
Allow Fatima
allow
to open the door to men?
To open the door and to be physically abused and to be verbally abused and to lose her fetus? Where was Imam Ali? Knowing that Imam Ali was not a coward. It's not like Imam Ali would shy away from a fight. No.
Mhm.
So where was Imam Ali? How could he let this happen? Three, it was a taboo for men to beat women in that time period. This is what they
They
claim.
buried women.
I'll get to it. They say it's a taboo for men to abuse women at the time.
What a lame excuse.
And so on and so forth. These
Yeah.
are the excuses that, there's not sufficient proof that Fatima Al-Zahra was martyred. طيب, she died a regular death. They say she died a regular death. My questions. Number one, how did she die? Fatima Al-Zahra died
18.
either at 18 or maximum 28. If we take the various narrations.
28?
Yeah.
Mhm.
There are some that believe she died at 28. Of course, the majority believe that she died at 18.
18.
But let's pretend, let's say, hypothetically speaking, that she died at the age of 28. How did she die at the age of 28? She either died at 18 or she's young. My point is,
Yeah, she's young.
I'm not trying to say at which age she died. I'm trying to say that she died young. How did she die young? There has to be a reason.
Yeah.
If you die at 90, no one asks what was the,
You're old
reason,
enough and you passed
the
away.
reason behind your death. You're 70, 80, 90, no one cares, no one asks. But at 18, 20, 28, there has to be a reason for death.
Yeah.
History doesn't tell us. Did she fall from a cliff? Did she die during labor? Was there an epidemic in Medina? Was there cholera? Was there some sort of epidemic disease in the city? Nothing.
Nothing.
There's nothing mentioned. So the death of Fatima Al-Zahra was definitely not normal. This is one. Two, I mentioned in the previous lecture that there are Sunni narrations in Sunni books, and Al-Tabari and others, that testify that some of the Sahaba came to threaten to burn the house of Fatima Al-Zahra. Others in Sunni narrations that they brought wood and fire to burn down the house. Specifically, Umar ibn Khattab made threats. He made threats that if you do not come out of the house, I will burn down the house. He was told that Fatima Al-Zahra inside the house, he said, so what? قال وإن. قال وإن. These are known facts. These are known facts. Yes, they don't mention the specifics. What happened? Those they leave out. What happened? How did they barge into the door? How was she physically beaten? How was she physically injured? What happened to the fetus? There are some Sunni narrations that mention that Ali ibn Abi Talib and Fatima Al-Zahra have a child by the name of Muhsin.
Yeah, third of the world, I'm guessing. According to some narrations, they say a third of the world died when Muhsin died or something like that.
Right. Well, I mean, not the
Yeah.
Sunni narrations, but Sunni narrations, they identify a fetus by the name of Muhsin that belonged to Ali ibn Abi Talib and Fatima Al-Zahra. Well, how did he die? Well, what happened?
Yeah.
Did she, how did she lose that fetus? Furthermore, where's her grave? Where's the grave of Fatima Al-Zahra? No one knows the grave of Fatima Al-Zahra. Everyone knows the graves of Rasulullah, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, the wives of Rasulullah, and the 4 Imams in the Baqi', the uncles of the Prophet. Hamza is buried in Uhud. Aqil, all of them, we know their graves, except the daughter of Rasulullah, Fatima Al-Zahra. Where's her grave? Doesn't that put a question mark?
It does.
That her death was not a normal death? If she died a regular death, why hide her grave? Why hide her grave? We don't even know which day she died on.
Yeah.
Because, why? Because her burial was not a public ceremony. People did not attend. If people had attended, then we would have known on which day she had
Yes.
died, on which day she was buried. That means her burial and her funeral were not public events. What happened? Do we need to take a break?
Inshallah, we'll talk about what happened, but after
Sure.
the break. Respected
Inshallah.
viewers, do stay tuned for after the break for inshallah we get to touch upon what exactly happened to Fatima Al-Zahra and what happened in Fadak. That's after the break. Stay tuned. Respected viewers, brothers and sisters in Islam, once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to send my condolences to Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. May Allah hasten his reappearance. To you, my dear viewers, to our pious scholars, and to every Muslim across the world for the martyrdom of Lady Fatima Al-Zahra. Once again, I welcome you to our show, Fatima the Great, with me, your host Ahmed Ali, and my dear guest, Sayed Hussein Al-Qazwini. Welcome back, Sayyidina.
Thank you very much.
Allah Yaslimku. Now, before the break, we touched upon a sensitive topic that a lot of people tend to, overlook or, not get themselves into this discussion. We briefly talked about the land of Fadak and what happened. We got to evidence about Fatima Al-Zahra not dying a regular death and dying as a martyr. And you left off at why do we have 3 narrations for her death, and why isn't her grave visible? Why don't people know where she's buried?
Right. Let's play detectives for a moment. Let's try to be objective.
Yes.
Right. If I bring narrations from Bihar al-Anwar or any of our books,
Yes.
you know, there might be some Muslims that say, I don't accept it.
that, yeah.
I don't accept these books. Prove to me that Fatima Al-Zahra was killed or martyred, but not from Bihar al-Anwar, because I don't accept Bihar al-Anwar. Some might say this.
Yeah.
I say, طيب. When police find a dead body and they want to see, how did this person die? Was it a regular death, or did he commit suicide, or was it a homicide?
Yes.
He was killed. They find clues. They search for clues. They look under that person's fingernails
To see if there's any scratching. Yeah.
scratching, or, you know, was he trying to fight? Is there blood? Is there a weapon? Time of death? They search for clues, fingerprints. Who benefited from this person's death? They'll search. They'll make an investigation. Finally, they'll come up with a result. We too, with the death of Fatima Al-Zahra alayhi salam,
Yes.
if we search for clues, if we put a bunch of clues together, she died at a young age. There was nothing wrong with her. No one knows exactly when she died. No one knows where she's buried. History doesn't tell us that there was a funeral procession, that Abu Bakr prayed on her body, or Umar participated, or the top Sahaba participated. This is the daughter of Rasulullah. She's not a regular person.
Yeah.
You would think that these top Sahaba, they would attend her funeral procession. Where these all are indicators that Fatima Al-Zahra was killed. Also, who benefited from her death? Did anyone benefit? Absolutely.
Who?
Absolutely. There's people that wanted Fatima Al-Zahra out of the scene, so that power could come to them easily, without opposition.
Yeah.
Fatima Al-Zahra led major opposition against the government, more than Imam Ali. More than Imam Ali. Because Fatima Al-Zahra is the daughter of Rasulullah. She's the direct, there was no one closer to Rasulullah at the time more than Fatima Al-Zahra. She led an opposition and no one could speak to her. طيب. She was an obstacle in their way of reaching
So they
power.
eliminated her.
So that's another clue that Fatima Al-Zahra's murder, it was to the advantage of some people, right? They say that, you know, where was Imam Ali when Fatima Al-Zahra was attacked? طيب.
That's a question that deviated many Muslims.
Right. The answer is we believe Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had told Imam Ali, had told him that after my death, this and this and this will happen. Imam Ali alayhi salam knew. This is one. Two, imagine if Imam Ali alayhi salam had taken out a sword and come to fight on the day of the death of Rasulullah. And to fight whom? There's narrations that say there were 70 men. 70 of the Sahaba, they came at the house. There are other narrations that say it was over 300 of the Sahaba. How many people did Imam Ali want to fight? How many people did Imam Ali have to kill? Or maybe even be killed? On the day that Rasulullah had died. Imagine the amount of fitna that would have risen if Imam Ali had decided to fight. And plus Imam Ali in his Al-Khutbah Al-Shaqshaqiyya in Nahj Al-Balagha, he says that I saw myself being, making two decisions. You can't fight in a situation like this. Imam Ali wanted the protection of Islam and the protection of the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If he wanted to fight, he could have fought, but it would have meant Islam would have been destroyed. Islam would have been destroyed. They say that why didn't Fatima Al-Zahra during the khutbah of fadak, why didn't she mention the attack on her house? Just because she didn't mention it didn't mean that it didn't happen. Fatima Al-Zahra didn't make it personal. She could have made it personal, but she didn't want to make it personal. That you attacked me, you hurt me. Plus, it's embarrassing for her. What did they expect? That she says, yeah, you attacked me, you aborted my fetus in front of men? Fatima Al-Zahra is much above that. It's much above. She's much above that level.
Some people use that evidence against us.
Right. Just because she didn't say it doesn't mean that it didn't take place. Plus, this incident is like Ashura. Can someone deny Ashura? If we were to come, those who they say that the narrations of the attack on the house are weak. We also have weak narrations regarding Ashura.
Yes.
Some of the narrations are weak. Does that mean that we have to deny the event of Ashura? No.
Of course not.
Why?
Why?
Because the event of Ashura has been passed down to us from generation to generation. There's no way we could deny it. Because from each generation, it was passed down to another generation, to another generation. It's something undeniable. So too with the case of Fatima Al-Zahra. It was passed down from generation to generation to generation that Fatima Al-Zahra was attacked. Fatima Al-Zahra was abused. Fatima Al-Zahra was murdered. So just because the narration is weak, it doesn't mean that the event didn't take place. Otherwise, we'll have to question a lot of events just because the narration is weak. Sometimes the only clue that you have and the only evidence that you have is a weak narration, there's room to negotiate or to doubt. But our evidence is not just narrations. This incident was passed on to us from generation to generation. From generation to generation.
I mean, does that satisfy the answer? I mean, for example...
I think for a great deal amount of our viewers and a great deal of believers, yes, I think these clues are enough.
And what I mean by satisfy the answer is, for example, when you mention where was Ali Abi Talib and the will of Rasulullah put him in shackles, if you will, that he couldn't fight. Although Ali Abi Talib, he was known on the battlefield. People, when they hear Ali Abi Talib, all they think of is bravery and courage. You don't get higher than Ali Abi Talib in courage and bravery. I mean, for a regular individual, seeing what happened or the same situation.
It is enough that every year millions of people go to Hajj and millions of others go to Umrah, and they go to Medina and they find the graves of Rasulullah and all the Sahaba, most of the Sahaba and the Imams of Ahl Bayt. But where's the grave of Fatima Al-Zahra? Fatima Al-Zahra wanted people to ask. This was a political statement. That people, I was killed. Where's my grave? Ask about my grave. No one knows. We'll ask, why was the grave hidden? Fatima Al-Zahra left clues. She purposely left clues that people know that I was assassinated, I was killed, I was martyred. Because if I wasn't, where's my grave? You would have seen my grave just like the grave of everyone else. She hid it on purpose. She made a political statement.
A political statement. Now, speaking of clues, and speaking that, she left clues for us to put together and try to find out what happened. Did she leave a message behind for the world? What kind of message did she leave? I mean, for an individual that was the closest one, as you mentioned, to Rasulullah, and leave this world without a message, I don't know.
I think Fatima Al-Zahra left us a lot of messages. She continued the message of her father, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
In what way?
From her life, from the things that she stood for, from the things that she emphasized on, from hijab to salah, to generosity, to selflessness. These are all of her messages. However, I think one of the most important messages that she left for us, the message that she died for, is that speak the truth even if it will leave your life in danger. Even if it puts your life in danger, speak the truth.
But our scholars today say if your life is in danger, you don't have to say the truth.
True, you don't have to. You don't have to. But can you? Yeah, you can.
You're gonna die.
but you'll put your life in danger. Fatima Al-Zahra alayhi salam was saying that stand for the truth. Now, I don't want people to, misunderstand me and say, okay, then if we have to speak the truth, then let's come out and say everything. Everything that we know.
Yeah.
And let's mention names.
Yes.
And let's say exactly, no, this is not what I meant. You don't have to speak the truth by mentioning all the details.
Because today the truth means shedding blood.
Ahsant. With all the details.
Yes.
With all the details. No. Speaking the truth is making your point across. Even if it's in the face of oppressors. Make your point across. Don't shy away from the truth. Don't look at your rights being taken and you just sit there, you cross your hands, or you sit on your hands and say, oh no, fight for the truth. Ask for your rights. Rights are taken, they're not given. You always have to ask for your rights. No one will come and hand over your rights. And that's what Fatima Al-Zahra alayhi salam did. And that's what her son Imam Hussein alayhi salam did. And I think Fatima Al-Zahra, one of her messages is that no one has an excuse. Whether you're a man, a woman, you're from the elderly, from the youth, speak the truth. Spread the message. Spread the message in any way possible. Again, I want to reiterate that speaking the truth does not mean that coming and giving all details all at once. No. But in a diplomatic manner, in a way that is most efficient. Passing on the message in a way that is most efficient, speaking the truth, not remaining silent. That's what Fatima Al-Zahra did. I think that's her message. For men, women, for the nation of Rasulullah, I think that was her message.
I mean, for example, when you say that speak the truth, and a lot of people today, we tend to see this, is a lot of rights have been taken, whether in the East or in the West. And a lot of dignities have been breached. Yet, we find the Muslims backing away from, the various situations. Even situations that it is in your hands to actually, ask for your rights. Yet they say, you know what, when Imam Mahdi reappears, then he will give us our rights and he will do this and he will do this. Is that what Fatima Al-Zahra wanted us to do?
No, definitely not. This is a mistake. This is a mistake that we Muslims have become very passive. Very passive.
We rely on others.
We rely on others. We see destruction everywhere. There's destruction in Yemen, in Syria, in here in Iraq, in so many parts of the world. And we're silent. We'll say, inshallah, one day Imam al-Mahdi will reappear and he'll fix things. Imam al-Mahdi is you think he's happy to have a bunch of lazy followers that are waiting for him to do the job? So I think we haven't learned from Fatima Al-Zahra. Every year we commemorate her, but we're doing it for the blessing. Good, the blessing is needed, but we also should take something, a lesson from Fatima Al-Zahra. Let us be motivated by her, by her life, by what she died for, by her message. Motivation is very important, and I think this is what she wants. She doesn't want us to be, to receive the blessings only, but to be motivated and to learn something from her, so that she didn't die in vain, so that her death means something.
And lastly, before we end tonight's program, the legacy of Fatima Al-Zahra, for many individuals, when they pass away, or legacies are left behind for individuals that actually contributed a lot to a society, to a community, or to the entire world. Did the legacy of Fatima Al-Zahra contribute globally or only on Muslims?
No, I think that Fatima Al-Zahra, her aim was to get her message across to as wide audience as possible. her legacy, I think, the past nights, we've been talking
Yes.
about her legacy.
Yes.
Fatima Al-Zahra as a legacy, she was the best daughter.
Yes.
She was the best wife. She was the best mother. These were her legacies. She was the best leader, even as a female. She was a martyr. Martyrs died for something. The difference between a martyr and a regular person is that a martyr died for a cause, and other people die a regular death, not necessarily for a cause. This was the legacy of Fatima Al-Zahra. Her legacy was in her hijab, was in her prayers, was in her modesty, was in the way that she raised her children, was in the way that she treated her husband, was in the way that she treated her father, the way she cared for her father, and the way she cared for her husband, and the way she cared for her children. This was all a legacy. Let's remember that Fatima Al-Zahra died at a very young age. For the age that she died in, the age that she died at, and the amount that she contributed, this was a great amount of legacy.
Huge.
Great amount of legacy.
I would like to thank you very much for joining us in these 5 nights. May Fatima Al-Zahra and the Ahl Bayt give you the ability
Ilahi, Ameen.
to continue serving Ahl Bayt alayhim
Likewise.
and keep your family
Ilahi, Ameen.
at the best of health.
Thank you
very much once again. Respected viewers, lastly I would like to conclude with, it's very important to actually touch upon the life of Fatima Al-Zahra alayhi salam as a martyr and as a leader, because these two put together give you the most important lessons you can actually take from any story, from any legacy. Fatima Al-Zahra alayhi salam was that woman who stood up against oppression, who stood up against every aspect and every obstacle in her life and in her way, and became the role model for every Muslim woman we have today. Thank you very much once again. And if you did not get the chance to view this episode or the previous episodes, you can view our YouTube channel at IMAM HUSSEIN TV. Once again, thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.